Hi, welcome to the Grin Grow Learning Garden. I'm Janet HIRSHMAN Rash, President of the Newport News Master Gardener Association.
Good.
Master Gardeners created this garden 17 years ago and have, with the cooperation of the city, maintained it ever since then. I hope you will come and visit the garden, and I hope that you will learn a little bit about Master Gardeners in general today in our conversation, and perhaps you will be interested in becoming a Master Gardener in the future. With me today, I have Allison DeWitt. Hi.
Hi, Janet.
Welcome to the garden.
Thank you.
You are a member of the Master Gardener organization since
2016, I went through the training.
And why did you become a Master Gardener?
Well, I've had a lifelong love of plants. You know, it started when I was young, helping relatives in their gardens. In college, you know, you have your indoor plants. And then I got into growing edibles. Grow more food, less grass is kind of my motto these days. So I wanted to be able to share my love of growing with community people and hopefully have more edible yards in Newport News.
Well, it sounds like you were really well versed in gardening and growing before you became a Master Gardener.
Yes.
Was the training that you received helpful?
Yes, it was very helpful. It was very helpful. The teachers were experienced in their subject matter. You know, I learned things that I'd kind of shied away from before, like proper pruning techniques and more in-depth propagation of plants, because I personally have a seed addiction, so I was very well versed in starting plants from seed. But, you know, I've learned other methods for perennial propagation and things like that.
Great, great. So it was really helpful.
Very helpful.
And let me just interject that behind your interview today, we hear children in the playground playing, and so we'll just talk over those kids having a great time.
Well, one of the great things about being a Master Gardener, in addition to sharing your knowledge of horticulture, I've worked in the Grin Grow Garden here, and I've seen the smiles on the children of all ages. I mean, we've got toddlers that are just beginning to walk. We have babies that are still being held by their mothers as they cruise the garden, up through, you know, like middle schoolers. And they walk over to like the pollinator garden and they see all the bees and butterflies and things like that, and they just smile, you know, they're happy. They get to water some of the plants here with their little sponges, and I don't know, makes my heart happy.
That's great, that's great. Other than working here at the Grin Grow Learning Garden, what other activities do you do as a Master Gardener volunteer?
The first 2 years that I was in the Master Gardeners, I was involved with the Go Green Expo, which is a one-day family-centered event that we hold at the Brittingham Midtown Rec Center in September. And it focuses on sustainable practices, growing local, live local. We have exhibitors, including beekeepers, the Butterfly Society people are there with their life cycle exhibit, life cycle of the butterfly, what you can plant in your garden to support pollinators. And so anyway, I was the exhibitor coordinator for that for the first 2 years. Got to interact with a lot of community people who were like-minded in environmental goodness. So I really enjoyed that. And now I participate in the rain barrel workshops. I do the City Center Farmers Market, and we run the Master Gardener information booth. So we answer questions. I want to plant vegetables in my yard, you know, what should I be doing? Questions from people, which was it was really encouraging to hear how many people were actually growing things to eat in their yards.
So you're really experienced. Do you need to be an experienced gardener? Because I was not.
Right.
So to be a master gardener?
No. No, I don't think you need to be an experienced gardener. They provide all the education that you need to get started. You know, I was really nervous about answering questions that people had because I felt like I knew a lot about growing vegetables, but not a lot about, you know, landscaping
Other
or lawn
aspects.
maintenance or other subject areas. So you learn the tools to use to be able to answer those questions for people. So that put my mind at rest.
Boy, that's
a little
great
bit.
information, Allison. There's also the help desk
Yes.
at the VCE office that's available to people who can't come out to the farmers market or
Right.
to our events. Everyone's trained to work that help desk.
Right.
Could you speak a little bit about that?
Well, you know, I tell people we're only an email or a phone call away.
Yeah.
All questions are promptly responded to. They can ask questions about anything really, horticulture, pollinator questions, and there are so many tools available to both the master gardeners, because I was a little uncomfortable answering questions from people when I was new.
Of course.
I'm still uncomfortable answering questions from people, but there's always a resource available to us and we can get back to them.
Great, great. Allison, it's been great talking with you here in the Grin and Grow Learning Garden. Thank you so much for all you do as a master gardener, and thanks for coming out today and speaking with the citizens of Newport News about your involvement with the organization.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
the opportunity to teach others.
Sure. We're here today in the beautiful Grin and Grow Learning Garden located in Riverview Farm Park in Newport News, right across the street from Menchville High School. Today I'm speaking with Veronica Long. She is a new master gardener in our organization, and I thought it would be fun to share, or have her share, some of her experiences as a new master gardener. Welcome. Hi.
Hi.
Veronica, I wonder if you would begin by just talking a little bit about why you were interested in becoming a master gardener, because everybody's reason for joining this organization is not the same.
It's really interesting how I heard about it. I happened to read an article in the paper last spring. I guess it was in about June, July. And at that time, I had been wrestling with the fact that I had never been able to help my mother as she got older to work with her garden. Because I didn't like working outside. I didn't like messing in the dirt. I didn't like worms. I didn't like anything that had to do with the outside. And so I happened to see that article. And I said, you know what, I ought to do that so I can help my mom, you know, work in her garden. And I'm going to tell you, it was the best thing I ever did. You know, I've really enjoyed it. Even taking the class, I realized I'm not as afraid of worms as I thought I would be.
Good.
And I've just learned so much. What was really interesting when I started taking the classes, I didn't think about the master gardener part. I didn't realize that most of the people maybe have had some background in gardening. I was probably one of the few who may not have ever done anything in a garden. I had a few house plants that I managed to keep alive. But outside work, I didn't do much of that. But the training was so easy, I could even understand it,
Oh,
you know,
wonderful.
even without a background.
So what have you done now that you've successfully gone through the training that begins at the end of summer and runs through fall every year? What have you done as an intern with Master Gardeners since and finishing your training?
For me, just the fact that I've started my own garden. I did a little garden in the back of my yard, and I even did some little container gardening on my patio. And for me, the good part of that is that I really don't want my granddaughter to grow up and be late to gardening. So I've enlisted her help in doing all of this work. So it's been fun, you know, doing that with her and just getting her started interested in gardening and that kind of thing. So a number of the activities, I try to do activities when I see them.
You've been out here in the learning garden.
I've been out here. I've even brought her out here and walked around when nobody else was around, and she was excited to see all of this so she would know what we were working towards. Not that we'll ever get to this point necessarily, but she's seen that. But I've been out here and helped do the weeding. One of the first activities I did that was really interesting to me was the Go Green Expo. That was at the very beginning of the training. And now with that, I just worked with the children at a table, helping them to do a little activity, you know, working with, doing a collage with flowers and that kind of thing, but just introducing them to the idea of, you know, flowers and working with
And you did that during your training period.
I did that, yeah,
right?
the very beginning of
That's
the training,
great.
as a matter
That's
of fact.
Great.
The very beginning.
And then I know you helped lead a big event that Newport News Master Gardeners do every year, and that's the Children's Festival in Newport News Park. Everyone doesn't have to take on a role of responsibility, but you chose to do that. You shared it with other people. Would you like to talk a little bit about that experience?
That was really a great learning experience. I'm a retired educator, and so I'm accustomed to working with children and planning programs and that kind of thing, but this one was a little different, you know, because a lot of it, the planning was working with adults and getting them involved in it.
These are annuals. They love the warm summer, so put them in the ground and pot, and they'll bloom continuously, just punch back the spent blooms, and water it every couple of days. Okay?
The actual activity, the Children's Festival at Newport News Park, it had so many different parts to it, I guess, you know, when you think about it. Not only the part about helping children to know about gardening, because that was the big focus of the whole thing that we did. The children, it was, because the activity is before Mother's Day, the children would be working with planting a little flower that I'm assuming most of them gave to their mothers for Mother's Day. And so that was the education piece for all of that, but just the logistics, I guess, of getting all of the volunteers so that it would run smoothly. I mean, it really was, it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun.
Well, and your experience as an educator was so perfect, and it was great to be able to put that to use as a Master Gardener for our community. It was a great connection. We were so happy to have you be involved in that.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Anything else you want to share about the program?
It has just been a wonderful program. I mean, I've met all kinds of people who are into gardening. One of the things that I've learned about the gardening world is that if you go anywhere with a gardening book on your lap, a gardener will stop to talk to you. And I've just enjoyed it. It's just been a wonderful learning experience. You know, just, like I said, just introducing my granddaughter, first of all, to gardening and what it means, and, you know, starting her young, earlier than I did with that. But it's just been a great experience.
Wonderful.
The people I've met and all that I've learned.
Thank
and being
you.
Comfortable with
with worms.
With worms. And digging in the
and other gardeners.
Yes.
Thank you so much for spending time here in the garden with us, sharing all your wonderful information about becoming a new Master Gardener. It's great to have you. We're so happy you're a part of the organization.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
excited about being a part of it.
Great. We're with Charlie Tiedekin to talk about master gardening, to learn about his role as a master gardener, and why he became interested in master gardening and what he does as a master gardener volunteer in the City of Newport News. Charlie, welcome to the Grin Grow Garden.
Thank you for having me, Janet.
Oh, sure, sure. How about telling folks, sharing with folks, why you wanted to become a master gardener or how you heard about it at the get-go?
I heard about it through an ad in the paper or a story in the paper. I'd been retired for a few months, and it was actually towards the end of the summer of 2017, and I saw an article in the Daily Press about master gardening, and I've always had a passion for growing things. So I got in touch with the VCE, and they allowed me to get in even though registration had been closed. Passed the background test, and next thing I know I was taking the classes over there at the Wells Fargo building in Oyster Point. Up until that time, I had no idea what a master gardener was. I thought that it was going out and getting dirty, digging in the dirt.
And it's not that?
It's a little bit of that, but it's so much more as far as the level of education that I received. The classes themselves were very wide-ranging, and I just had a ball meeting a bunch of people from not only Newport News, but the other cities on the peninsula that were taking classes with me.
Now, I don't want to scare people that they're going to need to memorize all of the scientific information about every plant out there in our location. So it's not that rigorous.
No, it's
right?
not, because what I've learned even when I was working was that you didn't have to know the answer, just know where to find the answer.
Right,
and
exactly.
That's about what the level of education is, that you don't have to know the Latin name for every plant. It's nice if you know how to pronounce them, and some of the class was how to pronounce the Latin, but it's really not important.
So once you finished your training, in what ways did you get involved in the Master Gardener organization as a volunteer in the community?
Well, the challenge was put out that I had to fulfill a certain amount of volunteer hours to be considered a master gardener. Well, the only way to do that was to get involved. Luckily, I had a lot of free time on my hand because I was retired, so I jumped in with both feet and got involved in just about every project that I could. My first project, I started right here at this Grin Grow Garden, and I thought that was great. We came out and weeded that day. We dug up one tree and put a new one in.
You built a cage around it to keep the deer from eating it.
The second time we came out after we had planted the tree, I think we planted in September or something like that, or maybe October. Well, we came back in 2 weeks later, the 9 bark was almost naked because of the deer. So,
right.
Being in manufacturing all my career and having some of the materials right in my garage, I did fabricate a cage, and by the looks of it, it's working quite well.
It has thrived. It has absolutely thrived.
Now, other than that project of the Grin Grow Garden, I got very involved in the rain barrel making, and I also made some rain barrels of some barrels I had in the house that I really didn't have anything to do with, other than until I learned the basics of making one, I was able to fabricate them out of the ones I had. There again, with my fabrication and manufacturing background, that fits right into one of my passions, is building the rain barrels. Through all this involvement, I also became the co-chair of our Go Green Expo that we have every fall. This year I'm full chair, and it's been quite a challenge. It gives me an opportunity to get quite a few volunteer hours in.
So now that you are a Master Gardener, in what ways has your training and your experience, because you brought a lot to the organization, how have you utilized that for your own use and for the public?
Before becoming a Master Gardener, I could grow beautiful flowers and ripe tomatoes, but at the expense of the environment. I used heavy fertilizing, I used insecticides to control the bugs. Regardless of what other insects, good or bad, were affected by the use of these chemicals. Since becoming a Master Gardener, I've become a better steward of the environment just in my own backyard and promoting it whenever I get with the public.
That's great. That's just great. That's such an important part of what Master Gardeners do. We love that.
It's basically the theme behind the Go Green Expo that I mentioned earlier, that we want people to come to the expo and leave with a better understanding of what they can do to help the environment and preserve it for the generations to come.
Super. Charlie, thank you so very much for coming to the garden, for being a part of the organization, and for giving to the city in the wonderful ways that you do.
Well, thank you for having me, and my time as a Master Gardener is, I enjoy the heck out of it. So.
That's great.
All right.
Thank you. I'm with Sue Campbell, a Newport News Master Gardener here in the Learning Garden in Riverview Farm Park. Sue, welcome, and thanks for spending your time here with us today. I understand, let's see, you became a Master Gardener in 2017.
That's correct.
And you've become very involved in a number of our projects and activities in the city. Would you like to talk about just a few of the things that you do as a volunteer?
Sure. Yeah, I've tried to get involved in some various things just so I can see what goes on and see what maybe I'd like to spend more time doing. And one thing I've particularly enjoyed is being involved in school gardens and working with children. Kids are a lot of fun, but I also find a lot of children don't spend a lot of time outside. They're afraid to touch the dirt. So I've been at several schools where we've planted tomato plants, milkweed for butterflies, and it's just really exciting to see kids just really get into that and enjoy that. Another part that we've done is work with schools that are interested in starting a school garden. So this year I met a couple of times with some teachers that are interested at Denby High School. And I'm happy to say they have moved on and they actually put in their garden, and I was by there the other day and they've planted it, and so that's very exciting to see teachers take an initiative to get the grant money and then to follow through from some of the things we talked about. So that's been a real fun thing to do.
And what a great way to share the training and knowledge that you have and spread that information and good sustainable practices throughout our community.
Yeah, that's really, I think what's the best part is I love gardening. I love learning more about gardening, but the best part is sharing what I know with people. A lot of people, they don't know a lot about gardening, but I think they're a little bit afraid of gardening. So in the Speakers Bureau, which we do in various places, some are programs at the library, there's been some at women's clubs, it's kind of wherever people make a request from. And so I've done one on container gardening, and we actually did plant some plants at that one. I have also done one on perennials and just plants that will come back every year, rather than putting your money into annuals that you won't see again. Perhaps some of those will come back, but you won't really see those next year. And so that's been fun to just expose people to what they can do. Even if they only have a balcony, they have a small little backyard. So
Right.
I think just, and hopefully that'll grow, and they will be planting other things, and who knows, maybe that's the seed for a future master gardener too.
Well, you're not going to brag about yourself, but I'm going to encourage you to talk a little bit about the wonderful job you did here at the Grin Grow Learning Garden, designing and leading the installation of our butterfly garden. It's brand new this year, and it's so beautiful. So would you like to just
Sure.
talk a little bit about that?
I always love to talk about butterflies. My particular interest is monarchs, and I've done that for many years. But yeah, this was actually from your idea to expand our Grin Grow Garden and to put in some plants for butterflies. And so we had a group of us. We started, I don't know, maybe April. We started planting, we've mulched, and we have someone who waters, and now you can see the fruits of that. It really is beautiful. And I come back, I've been here several times. I brought my husband one day to show him, and you always see butterflies. There's been children here. I had a nice little conversation the other day with a little boy about the butterflies, and it's just really exciting to see that.
That's great.
And I hope we can expand it. We'll see which plants survive till next year and which ones we need to supplement next year and have it keep going.
Well, the interesting thing about having the Grin Grow Learning Garden as a demonstration garden for the public is that it's out here in the community, and we face the same problems that everyone faces. Severe climate, harsh
Sure.
sun, lots of wind, lots of deer, lots of rabbits.
Right.
And so people could come here and see what you were successful in, how you were successful in your plant choices, and pattern their garden after what's working out
Right,
here.
right. That's the hope. We have had deer do like one set of plants in there. So,
true.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. So hopefully, yeah, people will want to duplicate this in some way. But there always are people walking around the whole garden and now walking around the butterfly garden. So it's a lot of fun to see.
Well, thank you so much for sharing what you do as a master gardener. Would you recommend it to your friends, even if they don't have the green thumb and love of monarchs that
I don't think
you have?
you don't have to have a green thumb. I think you just have a willingness to want to learn something new. It's a great way to meet new people. It's enriched my life meeting new people, and particularly for me, people that love gardening like I do. And yeah, you can't go wrong learning new things.
Well, the organization has certainly benefited from your membership, and thank you so much for sharing your story as a master gardener with us today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Glad
You're
to be
welcome.
here.
And thank you for listening and learning about master gardening. We do encourage you to come to the Grin Grow Learning Garden and see for yourself. Our application period for Newport News Master Gardening runs through the summer, and the time for training begins late summer, early fall. So if you're interested in giving back to the community, if you care about the environment, check us out, join us. Our phone number at the Virginia Cooperative Extension office is 757-591-4838. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to have you join our organization.